Now I'm going to show you how to use group channel tracks, and they are a little bit similar to folder tracks in that it takes many and combines them into one, but instead of doing it visually, what it does is it routes the signal or audio signal from those tracks or their related channels and puts them inside of a new channel. And I'll show you the advantages to doing that in just a moment. And there's a couple of different ways to add group channel tracks, and I'm going to start with my favorite way, which is done inside of the mix console. So I'm going to type F3 to get to my mix console and F2 to get rid of my transport panel. And now what I'm going to do is take a look at these drum tracks, and again, there's 11 different drum tracks. And before I put them in a group, let me show you one of the disadvantages in not using groups. And that is that if I wanted to adjust the volume of all of the drums all at once, I would have to go to 11 different faders and turn all of those faders down if I wanted to make a gross volume adjustment of all of the drum tracks simultaneously. So I'm going to hold down the controller command button and click those faders again to get them back to the 0 position, the default position. So by using a group channel track, what it does is it takes the output of all of those tracks and puts them into a new fader. So to get them into a group channel, I'm going to click the first track, then I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my computer keyboard and click the last track, and that will highlight or select all of those 11 tracks. Then I can right or control click on any of those selected channels, and I can select from this little subgroup, Add Group Channel to Selected Channels. Then it's going to ask me how many group channels I want to make. In this example, it's going to be 1. And the configuration is going to be stereo, and only under the rarest of conditions would you ever add a mono group channel track. So make it stereo, then click the Add Track button. And the result is that those 11 channels are now routed, or their signals are routed into the mix console in this brand new group channel. You'll notice that it gave it the name of just group 1, so I'm going to change this to drums. And then since I can change the color here, I'm going to change this group channel track to the same color as the drums. So I'm going to make those yellow. And now if I wanted to make a gross adjustment of the volume of all of those tracks at once, I can just move the group channel's fader. Let me show you what I mean. If I hit solo on the group channel track, now I'll just be hearing drums. And to adjust all of the drums all at once, I can just move the fader. And another huge advantage of this group channel track is that now I can add other sorts of effects like different EQ or insert effects or strip effects. That means I can add any of the other treatments that I can apply inside of the racks to all of the drums all at once. So if I wanted to EQ the drums in their entirety, I can now use the equalizer on the group channel track rather than having to go through every single track of the drums and adjust the EQ. You'd still need to adjust the EQ on individual tracks, but this way you can adjust the overall EQ of those drum tracks. If the drums were sounding a little bit boomy, you could roll off some of the low end. Or if they were getting a little bit too crisp, you could roll off some of the high end. So by combining all of those channels into a group channel track gives you a lot more flexibility for treatments of the overall sound of a particular group of tracks. So now I'm going to go back out to the project window, and I'm going to show you another way that you can add a group channel track, but it's a little bit more labor intensive. Let's go ahead and add a group channel for the bass. So I'm going to go to the project window, select Add Track, and then choose Group Channel. It's going to ask me the same questions. How many groups do I want? I'm just going to choose 1, stereo configuration. I'm going to title it this time, bass, then click Add Track. And then I'm going to go to the bass folder, and I'm going to click on this first track. And now I have to route the signal from that track into that newly created group channel. And that's what makes this a longer process inside of the project window. And you can see that the mix console method is much faster. But if I wanted to do it this way, I would select this track, come over to its output assignment, and choose not the stereo output, which is where it goes from a default point of view, and instead choose the bass group channel. So I'm going to do the same thing with this other bass track, choose the bass group. So it's really much faster to do inside of the mix console. So I'm going to quickly do that for our other tracks. I'm going to come over here to our guitars. I'm going to select that first guitar channel. Then I'm going to come down and select the last guitar channel. Then right or control click and choose add group channel to selected channels. And I'm going to choose one stereo guitar group channel. That does all the routing for me. The guitars have already been routed over to this guitar channel. I'm going to quickly do the other channels. So I'm going to click and then shift click here. And I'm going to add those to a new group channel. This is going to be called keys. Then click add track. And then finally with the vocals, click and then shift click and then right or control click, add group channel to selected tracks. And I'm going to call this Vox. Then click add track and then change the colors. So the bass is going to be red, guitars are going to be purple, the keys are going to be green, and they already are, and the vocals are going to be a shade of blue. So when you use this mix console method, it routes all of the audio automatically. Let's use the vocals as an example. So these three channels are now being put into that vocal group. But if we wanted to see the routing itself, we could come up to the routing rack, click that open, and you'll notice that the output routing, or the destination for that particular track, is set to the vocal group channel. And the rest of those tracks are done the same way. So if I went to the second vocal track, it's also going to the Vox group, and the third channel is doing the exact same thing. So when you use the mix console method of adding a group channel, it does all the audio routing for you. Whereas if you do it in the project window, you have to do the audio routing track by track. So I recommend using the mix console method because it's much faster. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to detect and strip the silence from your audio tracks.